the price of Icon of the Seas go down once Star of the Seas launches? And the answer is sort of, but not as directly as the question may seem. As in, what I mean by this is that when Star of the Seas goes on sale, or the fact that we know about Stars of the Seas, which is going to be the second Icon class cruise ship, there isn't an instant price reduction or something along those lines for Icon. What we see historically as new ships come on, it tends to, I guess you could say, drive down the price of existing ships. As you want to see this in practice, go look at the average price for Wonder of the Seas, which is a pretty new ship, versus Allure of the Seas, versus Freedom of the Seas, versus Enchantment of the Seas, right? Now, there's a lot of other factors at play here, variables, including itinerary and time of year and all those things. But generally speaking, an older ship command gets lower price. So what I'm trying to say is I don't want to make it seem like, oh, now that we know about Star, or when Star of the Seas goes on sale, you can expect Icon of the Seas prices to go down. More that Star prices would be higher than Icon, which would be higher than Wonder on average, then would be higher than, Odyssey or Oasis. Does that make sense? Because we talk a lot about the fact that older ships cost less than newer ships, but and certainly when newer ships come on, it definitely does. They do have higher prices than existing ships, but I don't want to make it seem like, a ship like Icon, which is commanding a huge amount of demand right now, is going to necessarily see price drops, or that you're going to see significantly lower prices overall for these things. Remember, not only is there the new ship at play, there's also a lot of demand right now. And it'll be interesting to see what happens once Star actually does come out, because we're talking about 2025 for that. So we're still like a year and a half or something like that away from that happening, or less than a year. I forget exactly how time is not my friend. Anyway, my point is that we'll see where things are, but there's a lot of other factors at play as well. So indirectly, yes, kind of, but not as straightforward as it may seem. Question, we're getting closer and closer to Icon. Heard trouble about staffing entire ship? No, I have not heard anything related to that. Certainly staffing, I think, is always a challenge for any company, but I really don't. I've not heard anything about it. In fact, your comment here, John, is the first I've even heard about it. And it's just, I have no reason to believe there's any issues there. So in terms of, you think it'll be ready for delivery on time, there's a lot of factors, right? It's not just staffing. Let me put it this way. I have absolutely no reason to believe that there'll be any delay as of right now. Meaning, I'm not seeing any murmurs or anything beyond anything, quite frankly. I mean, there's always a risk of it, and I'd be the first to admit that. So I'm not here to tell you, John, I know definitively the ship will be here on time. I can't promise you that. I have no idea. But thus far, I have not seen any indication that there would be any issue that would prevent that. Could something still occur? Of course. Icon still has more sea trials to go, and she's not been handed over to the cruise line yet. There's still a lot of work to do, and including staffing, of course. But as of right now, there's nothing to believe that there's anything related to that. I try not to delve into speculation too much. I think I've been on enough videos here. You've all seen me talk about things that there's the rumor mill and there's speculation. I often bring up the classic example with Wonder of the Seas. There was, if you remember when Wonder was going to launch, there was some marketing material that went out that skipped over the March sailings of when she debuted in 2022. And that led to so many rumors. Oh, Wonder is going to be canceled. They're going to be delayed. And that didn't happen. And Wonder, for what it's worth, was built and developed and staffed up during a much more difficult time, in my opinion, during the pandemic and the supply chain issues being worse then than they are now. So again, I'm not ruling anything out. I'm just simply saying that, honestly, John, this is the first that I've even heard of it. And there's a lot of idle chatter that's always on the internet, so don't put too much stock into it. There's just nothing yet to indicate that would be a case. Should I bid for a better room? Thoughts? My thoughts are no, and there's a couple of reasons why I don't recommend bidding for a stateroom upgrade. Number one, just because there is a stateroom, like you get that email like, hey, Jeff, you can bid for a room upgrade. Doesn't actually mean there are rooms to upgrade to. This is a very common misconception, I guess, and that's on Royal's side. They make it seem like their room's upgraded. There's not. Royal Up is primarily a mechanism for filling rooms if there are last-minute cancellations. Basically, they really should be saying, "Hey Jeff, if someone were to cancel their suite at the last minute, would you be willing to bid for it?" But they don't. If they did it that way, like you get far less bids. So they want to make it more interesting. Anyway, number two, if you do place a bid and do win your bid, let's say you do, and that could happen, there are unsold rooms and you get one, great. You don't get to pick your room location. And depending on where that room is, that could be problematic. Your room could be you could get a balcony, but it's an obstructed balcony. Or maybe it's a room that is directly under the windjammer and has noise bleed issues. Don't know. Maybe it'll be a great room. I'm just saying those are potential issues with it. So generally speaking, Jeff, if I were you and you want to upgrade your room, call your travel agent and have them upgrade your room for you the old-fashioned way. If you don't mind rolling the dice, sure, more power to you. Just want to make sure that's clear on that. What are some must-do excursions on an Alaska sailing? I got to say anything that gets you near or on a glacier is a must-do, like Mendenhall Glacier Park in Juneau is the classic example. But, there's certain things you can do in a lot of places, but the glaciers are truly unique and special. And I would definitely prioritize tours that get you either on them, like maybe a seaplane or helicopter ride, or nearby, a kayak, a nearby park, a viewing spot. This is really what makes Alaska extra special. And they may cost more, but I think these tours are absolutely worthwhile. Any opinion on the Royal Caribbean credit card is a good benefit. I don't love the Royal Caribbean credit card. I think in terms of being a travel credit card, a travel rewards card for points, there are far, far better credit card. There are far, far better travel credit cards out there in terms of getting you more points for each dollar spent. The reason to have the Royal Caribbean credit card is because you want either free Royal Caribbean onboard credit or you want to earn a free cruise. No other travel credit card will get you those things. And if that's truly important to you, then yes, that could be worth it. But if you're not necessarily in there, or you'd rather just say, listen, that's cool and all, but hey, if I can get free flights or cash back or what have you, you're going to earn those better with other travel credit cards. After checking in on the ship, how long will it take for my cabin to be ready to move in? Good question. So cabins usually open up sometime between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. on embarkation day. It depends on the sailing. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes 1:30. It's pretty rare, but it could be 2 o'clock. So that's somewhere in that ballpark. You'll know it as soon as you get on board the ship, because if somebody doesn't tell you what time it is that the rooms are ready, if you go to any of the decks that have access to cabins, the door will be closed and be a large sign that's posted that says exactly what time it is. So somewhere between 1 and 2 o'clock. Are no-show cabins for sale after the ship sails? For sale? No, but Royal Caribbean does use the Royal Up system to place people in those cabins. So your bid could still work on the day of the cruise. I remember, I think it was Josh Carruthers who's in our chat. I think we were on some sailing. Was it Odyssey, Josh, where you did a Royal Up and they were like, hey, we'll let you know once you get on board the ship, if that's the case. Certainly, Barbara, you could ask. Historically, like back in my day, you could go down to guest services on, the end of the first day or day 2. Like, hey, are there any no-show cabins that I can move up to? And that was an option. But in today's world of Royal Up, I think it's all done through that. I really don't think there is a mechanism otherwise to do that. Do you like the name Star of the Seas? I think of Disney. All the names, I've said this for every ship name, every new ship name that comes out, I always think, oh, what a terrible name. And then after a while, I just get used to it. Anthem, Symphony, I hated those names when they came out. And now I can't even not think of it as their name, like Anthem of the Seas, Symphony of the Seas. It makes total sense. You should get used to them. That's honestly my take on it. I know years ago, cruise ship names would be a little more connected to each other, Liberty, Independence, Freedom of the Seas, Radiance, Brilliance, Serenade, right? They have a little more of a connection there. I get that. I think that it's not as important. It's not nearly that important to begin with. And number 2, I think we just get used to them. And I think number 3, at the end of the day, people are more concerned about what you can do on board. So Star of the Seas isn't necessarily like the most original name in the world, but it's also not a bad name for a cruise ship. It's easy to say, easy to pronounce, easy to spell. So yeah. Are there any dinner and show venues on any of the ships, food or drinks while you watch a show? So on Icon of the Seas, we're going to get that with the Supper Club. That's probably the closest thing that you're going to be getting with that. Supper Club is a new the Empire Supper Club is the name of the venue I was really talking about on Icon of the Seas. And that is going to have a food and entertainment perspective. There are other venues that sort of have this. When Utopia of the Seas launches, they're going to have something akin to this as an immersive dining experience with the new train car experience. But on ships that already exist, Wonderland kind of sort of has a show to it. Not really. It's not what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, and I'm trying to think of an example of something that would be like, you know, entertainment while you dine. Hibachi, you could make an argument, is probably the closest thing to that at Izumi. So yeah, I wish I could give you a better answer than that. In the casino, how much do you have to spend to win any prizes or freebies? There's a chart right by the casino host. I believe, well, of course, here's the problem. It's not so much, so the chart has points. Basically, if you accrue enough points in your sailing, you get something. So I believe the minimum is you could earn $100 off a new booking. How many points is that? I forget. I don't remember the exact. It's a couple hundred points. And then if you get a couple hundred more points, you get $250 off a cabin. And you could even get, I mean, depending on how much you gamble, you could even earn like, you know, a free inside cabin, a free junior suite. I mean, we're talking about, you know, now thousands of points. The reason why it's a little confusing is points don't correlate to dollars. So let's assume, I'm making up numbers here. Let's assume the point, you need 200 points to get a $100 certificate off a cruise. Well, that $200 points is not equivalent to $200. It's equivalent to whatever you spent to get 200 points, which depending if you're playing slots, roulette, craps, or blackjack, and how much you're betting per hand, that will dictate how quickly or not so quickly you earn those points. So it's not quite as clear there. So I can't give you exactly an answer. When you get on board the ship, you'll see this chart right by the casino host, and then you can track your progress every day of the cruise to kind of figure out where you're at. I think after about a day or two, you kind of, and assuming you maintain the same level of betting and duration of play, you'll probably start to figure out, you know, how quickly or not so quickly you're going to reach whatever tier there is there. We'll be live again next Monday right here on YouTube. Thank you all so much for joining us here. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Stay safe out there, do something fun, and we'll talk again very soon right here on YouTube. Bye, everybody.